What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we need to be taking a look at some more cards from the Grand Star Alliance. Very shortly ago, is that a phrase? Let's say it is. I showed you some Grand Star Alliance cards. I told you that there were way too many to fit into one video. Now it's time for part 2. I will link all of the previous videos in the description. I'm going to be going through all the new cards that were leaked, shown, spoiled, whatever they were over at Gen Con this weekend. So make sure you subscribe so you get them in the future. Check the links in the description. Any new card that's revealed, I'll be showing you here. And not just showing you the card, anyone can show you the card. We're going to be talking through how good it is, how to use it, etc. Now we need a hook for these videos, and the hook for today is that some of these Grand Star Alliance creatures are actually getting their own upgrades. So let's take a look at Sensor Officer Garcia. Now, shout outs to the lovely folks at Crazy Killing Machine, who have revealed some of these cards, the lovely folks over at the Covenant, who have revealed some of these cards, the lovely Brand Minnick, who's revealed some of these cards, and the lovely Ludovic Oban, who has revealed some of these cards they've been thrown around everywhere. So I want to start off today having a look at Sensor Officer Garcia. Sensor Officer Garcia is a free power creature, we assume with no armor, though we can't say for certain. And when you play, fight, or reap, keys cost +2 during your opponent's next turn. Now, this is really good, lady, like really good. It reminds me kind of like, well, some of the Mars cards we've seen. So we've got Grabber Jammer, which increases the cost of your opponent forging by 1. Or we've got Jammer Pack, which increases the cost of your opponent forging by 2. But it's when you play, or fight, or reap. So let's compare it to Lash of Broken Dreams for a moment. Lash of Broken Dreams gives +3. Your opponent needs to pay in order to forge a key. And clearly +3 is better than +2, but Lash of Broken Dreams is an artifact. Which means that when you play it down, it's exhausted, you've got to wait a turn, and then you can increase the cost of your opponent forging a key. Well, that's not terribly ideal, is it? You've got to wait a turn. Here, when you play, your opponent's keys cost +2. Except the lovely folks at Crazy Killing Machine essentially showed us the Grand Star Alliance cards from one deck. And there were 2 of them, so we know it's not limited to 1 per deck. So you play 2 and your opponent's keys cost 10. And then next turn you reap with them both and they cost 10. Now the thing is, Lash of Broken Dreams, it's just an action, it does nothing else. Here, you reap, you gain an amber, and the keys cost +2. That's really good. Now, unlike something like Grabber Jammer is +1, but it is a permanent. Doesn't matter what your active house is, the keys cost +1. Whereas here, it's when you play, or when you fight, or when you reap, but you've got to play or fight or reap. If it's not a Grand Star Alliance turn, and you've not got a way to house cheat and use it out of house, if it's not a Grand Star Alliance turn, you're not increasing the cost of forging keys. So we've got advantages and disadvantages over the other cards that are similar, but it's really quite nice. But we've also got Garcia's Blaster. Now this was revealed by the folks at the Covenant. We don't have the best image, but we can work with this. It's got an amber bonus, and this creature gains fight or reap. You may deal 2 damage to a creature, or attach Garcia's Blaster to Sensor Chief Garcia. After you attach it to Sensor Chief Garcia, you steal an amber. So it really is for her, and the entire point is that it gets significantly better if you're using it for her. And what I love here is that if you've got 2 Garcia, this becomes ridiculous. Because you've got an amber, and then when you fight or reap, you attach it to a different Garcia and then steal an amber. And then you fight or reap with that one and put it back on the original Garcia, and you steal an amber. You essentially do this as many times as you want, or indeed as many times as you've got Garcias down. And like I said, we know Garcia is not limited to 1 per deck. I adore this. If you've only got one Garcia, you might as well just deal 2 damage to a creature, because you can't attach it to Garcia if it's already attached to Garcia. That's just silly. I don't think that makes any sense. But if you've got 2 Garcia, you can be stealing. If you've got 3 or 4 Garcia, I adore this. Reap with the first, attach it to the second. Reap with the second, attach it to the third. Reap with the third, attach it to the fourth. Reap with the fourth, attach it to the first again. Oh, look, you've just stolen 4 amber. This relies on having multiple Garcia to make the most of it. And not only do you have to have multiple Garcia, but you have to have them all on the field at the same time. I get it. But you can steal multiple amber. Bait and switch can now steal 2, and we all still think that's great. Swindle steals 3, and it's literally the only thing you can do during your turn. And people think that's good. I don't think this is going to be easy to make the most of, but I do adore it. Now, we've also got Chief Engineer Walls. Chief Engineer Walls is a 2-power creature with no armor, but it's got elusive. Got to attack it twice to take it down. First attack does nothing. And when you play, fight, or reap, you may return a robot card from your discard pile to your hand. So in the previous video, we had a little bit of a look at Calvin. And Calvin's a robot, so you can pop him back into your hand. Robot basically means it's got to be a card that has the robot trait, like we see on Calvin. Cool. Doesn't have to be Calvin, doesn't even have to be a Grand Star Alliance card, incidentally. So that's quite nice. I mean, someone like Calvin gets attached as an upgrade, that's really good. You've got to have a robot you want to reuse, but as long as you do, we're looking pretty nice here. But the thing is, he has his own blaster, ladies and gentlemen. That's kind of cool. And Walls Blaster, which was revealed by the folks over at Crazy Killing Machine here. It's an upgrade, and it gives you an amber bonus like so many upgrades we've seen in the past do. And it reads, when you fight or reap, you may deal 2 damage to a creature or attach Walls Blaster to Chief Engineer Walls. Yeah, you see what's happening here? Very much like Garcia's Blaster, probably not a coincidence. After you attach it to Chief Engineer Walls, stun a creature for each upgrade on Chief Engineer Walls. Now, bearing in mind that Calvin is a robot, and Calvin can be attached as an upgrade. Incidentally, the other one we saw that can be attached as an upgrade is Explo-Rover, which is also a robot. So you can see the synergy coming out here. Essentially, Chief Engineer Walls can consistently get robots back. Robots can be attached as upgrades, and then when you attach Walls Blaster, you get to stun creatures equal to the number of upgrades you've got, which will be higher because of all the robots you've attached as upgrades, which will be easier because you've got that skill that when you fight or reap, you grab a robot back from the discard pile. There's going to be a lot of stunning going on. I do not like it as much as Garcia, because stealing beats stunning. But it is a pretty gosh darn good card that I like very much indeed. Psi Officer Morpheus. I'm not saying he doesn't have his own blaster. I am merely saying that we haven't actually seen it yet. But that doesn't mean that we can't have some fun having a look at what he is and what he does. So Psi Officer Morpheus then. We've got a 2-power creature. Now, we don't know if he's got armor or not. It is unfortunately covered. Most creatures don't. Let's assume he doesn't until we're told otherwise. And what we have here is a lovely skill. After you play a creature with a play effect, trigger its play effect an additional time. Yeah, this is phenomenal. This is a Burn the Witch card. By which I mean this is a card that if it's down, your opponent has to get rid of it. Otherwise, it's just going to go so wrong for them. Let's imagine you play a helper bot. Well, if you've got a Psi Officer Morpheus down, I'm assuming Science Officer, you don't get to play an extra card that isn't of the active house. You get to play 2. Let's say you've got a Ronnie Wristlocks. When you play it down, you don't steal an amber and steal 2 if your opponent's got 7 or more. You do it twice. So if they've got 9 amber, you play Ronnie Wristlocks, steal 2 to get them down to 7. Then you trigger the effect again, steal another 2 to get them down to 5. Oh look, you've just stolen 2 amber. Twice. Now, to be fair, this depends on the deck. If your opponent doesn't have any really good play skills that you're worried about, then you don't need to worry about taking down Psyorphus and Morpheus, but most decks do. I mean, we looked at Garcia earlier in this video. If you've got Psyorphus and Morpheus down, you just get straight away to increase the cost of your opponent's forging by 4. But here's the difference. This is a permanent skill. Now, if we compare this to something like Duskwitch, Duskwitch is another permanent skill, but it's got Omega. Means that all your creatures come into play ready. So you play Duskwitch, and 90% of the time or more, your opponent will destroy Duskwitch before you ever get to use it. But Psyorphus and Morpheus doesn't have Omega, it's not a skill, it's just there. Well, it's not an action, it's a permanent skill. You play it down and then immediately play Garcia, and you get that playability twice. We looked at Morpherus Kirby in the previous video. When you play Fight or Reap, you may play a non-Star Alliance artifact, upgrade, or action card this turn. Oh, Psyorphus and Morpheus is down. Yeah, now you get to play 2. This is a phenomenal card, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to see a very, very large amount of play indeed. People are going to love this. Again, it's only good if you've got coming into play abilities you love, but most decks do. Universal Translator. Now, we've seen in this video and in the previous one that Grand Star Alliance love their upgrades. And what we have here is a card that gives you an amber when you play it. It's an upgrade. And this creature gains when you fight or reap, use a friendly non-Star Alliance creature. This is brilliant. Now, bearing in mind we previously saw Morpherus Kirby, who when you play Fight or Reap, you got to play a non-Star Alliance artifact, upgrade, or action, but didn't let you cheat creatures. This does. Now, to be fair, it only lets you use a friendly non-Star Alliance creature. Doesn't let you play a friendly non-Star Alliance creature. But make no mistake about it, ladies and gentlemen, this is still very, very fun. It means that you can use a creature to fight, or use a creature to reap, or use an action on a creature. They are literally the 3 options. Extra fighting, extra reaping, gives you an amber bonus, and if you put it down on a creature that's not exhausted, you can do it straight away. And you get the amber bonus. Using extra creatures is good. It's why everyone loves John Smith over in Mars. Also, shout out to Mars, who aren't going to be in this set, which makes me a little sad, but you know, dinos for life. Zap. Zap is a new card that was revealed by the folks over at Team Covenant. It's an action card, it gives you an amber bonus, and when you play it, you deal 1 damage to a creature for each house represented among creatures in play. Now, best case scenario here, you do 6 damage, and you're literally talking life for a life without having to sacrifice one of your own creatures. That's awesome. But I don't think it's going to work too often. I mean, put it this way, right? One of the great cards from Age of Ascension is Proclamation 346E, which increases the cost of your opponent forging a key by 2 unless they control creatures from 3 different houses. Proclamation 346E works a lot. It is difficult to get 3 creatures from your house down. Similarly, it is difficult for your opponent to do it. And both of you doing it at the same time, such that there are 6 different houses represented, is gonna be very difficult. It is rare you're ever gonna hit 6 damage with Zap. It'll happen sometimes, and that'll be lovely, but it will be rare. Even if you're doing 2 or 3 damage, though, that's still not bad. 2 damage will still get you something like an Ember Imp. 1 damage will still get you something like a Dust Witch, although we can do better. Point is, at its best, it's amazing. It is rarely going to be at its best. And finally, Helmsman Spears. A 2-power creature, no armor, and when you fight or reap, you may discard any number of cards from your hand and draw a card for each card discarded this way. I love this, because the rule of Keyforge is that at the end of your turn, you draw until you got 6 cards in your hand, And then during your turn, you may play any cards you like of the active house. So what happens is you start your turn usually with 6 cards. Maybe you got something like a mother down and you're drawing more, but generally you start with 6 cards. And then you roll through your turn. But here, let's say for argument's sake that you've got 2 Saurian cards. You can discard them and draw 2 more. Now, maybe you draw Star Alliance cards, maybe you don't, but at least there is a decent chance that you will. It allows you to have a hand refresh in the middle of your turn, kind of like punctuated equilibrium, except you discard as many cards as you like, you don't have to discard them all, and punctuated equilibrium lets you draw until you've got 6, or however many you should. This just replaces the ones you discarded. It reminds me a little bit of a weaker Professor Sutterkin. Professor Sutterkin draws a card for each friendly creature. Each friendly Logos creature. This allows a hand refresh. What it really means is that if you've got a hand with 4 non-Star Alliance cards, you can swap them for cards which might be Star Alliance. Now, don't be discarding cards you want to use next turn, that's silly. But maybe you've just got 1 card that you really want to play. Maybe you really want to play a Garcia to increase the cost of your opponent forging a key, but you don't have any other Star Alliance cards in your hand. Well, if you've got Helmsman Spears on the board, then you can reap, gain an amber, and then refresh your hand. This is fun. A lot of these cards are fun. The idea that some of these creatures have their own upgrades is awesome, but frankly, ladies and gentlemen, I just adore so many of these cards. They look very, very fun. Garcia and her blaster stand out to me as being amazing for stopping your opponent forging, but there's plenty more here to like, and I'd like to know which ones you like, so let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice, and then make sure you like this video. Please make sure you're subscribed so you can see all the new cards as they're revealed, and follow me on Twitter at the Wossy, where we talk about Keyforge and any other game I enjoy, which is many. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.